What happened is at the end of March, I was diagnosed with the COVID virus. I was one of the first 100 cases in the state of Delaware. And in that diagnosis, I was told to stay home, which I did. I had a cough, I had a fever, and I was very tired. Kind of felt like a flu. Within a week, I felt okay. My temperature broke. I told somebody that I was recovering, I'm in great shape, good night's sleep, and I went back to work from home pretty quickly. The next day on Friday, however, the symptoms came back, and then in addition to the cough and the fever, being tired, I started having trouble breathing. I didn't know it at the time, but by Sunday morning, I knew I was having trouble breathing. I was making weird sounds, and we talked to someone at the hospital which I work at. He said, "You need to get in the ambulance and get here." It was the last thing I remember before I woke up. I went on the ventilator, and I was on a ventilator for 15 days. During that 15 days, my wife had to carry this load. With others, just built a tremendous prayer network to pray for me and pray for her, pray for our family. The only concern was I going to make it? So the doctors informed me, and different clinical professionals have told me that my chance of survival when you're on a ventilator for 15 days, that you could 15%, 20%, maybe 25% survival rate. The person I trust the most, Dr. Salvatore, indicated that based on the condition he saw me in when I was on the vent, he goes, "You're lucky to be alive. You had less than a 15% survival rate." Unfortunately, I've also talked to people who, I'm the only one that they know that has been on a vent and survived. So I know that God brought me back for a reason, and that part of that reason is to share that prayer works. The interesting thing I didn't know until later in my recovery is that there were groups at this church, at other churches, Bible study groups, prayer groups that were praying for me in 9 different states. There were people in Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Florida, Oregon, California, and I probably forgot one other state. There were people that were praying for me that I didn't know. After I got home, there were people that I saw on Facebook that had gotten the report that I had survived and I was home. I started interacting with them. And sister, brother in the Lord did not know me from Adam. It's just amazing how much what God did in my life was a testimony to them. Now, when I started the recovery and woke up, that was different because those first 3 days, I had no strength, I had no memory. It was basically on a reset. I couldn't pick up a glass of water. That's how weak I was. And that was really difficult. When I went back and journaled what happened to me, I thought it took a week and a half. It was really only 3 days. But I will always remember watching that clock and just, when can I go home? And they kept saying, it's going to take a while. I had no idea how long it would take. But that was the hard part for me, was the first 3 days I was awake. By day 4, I could feel God's presence. I knew it was getting better, and it was just a matter of time. And that became easier for me and for everybody because I was on the road to recovery. Beyond recovery quickly, which is a miracle in itself, the miracle that I'm not dealing with some of the long-term effects of the virus and the medicines I am on is kind of a third part of the miracle. It's God and prayer, and it's all the people that lifted me up, plus the clinical team. I mean, there were over 100 people that were involved in my recovery, and some of them were Christians, and they were praying for me, and I was covered with prayer by so many people, and I'm grateful for that. I've had a lot of people cry since they've met me. I went back up to the ICU twice and thanked the nurses, and couldn't hug me, but they started crying because they couldn't believe I was alive and that I was doing so well. My journey with the virus is I spent 9 days dealing with the virus from my first symptom until I went to the hospital. I was on a ventilator for 15 days. I remained in the ICU for another several days. Then I went to a recovery unit for another week and a half. So overall, I spent about 4 to 5 weeks between hospitals and the initial symptoms. Beyond that, I had home care for an additional 2.5 weeks. And so overall, I was at about 7 or 8 weeks before I returned to work. So on April 23rd, I felt it was time to pick up the Bible and look at it again. And it was just amazing. It was on that day that the devotional was around Psalm 30. When I read it, I was just blown away. I will extol you, O Lord, for you have lifted me up, and have not let my foes rejoice over me. O Lord my God, I cried out to you, and you healed me. O Lord, you brought my soul up from the grave. You have kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. It's amazing how God works, because what were the odds that it would be on that day, and that would be the scripture that would be there for me. And it was a reaffirmation for me, again, of how powerful he is.